Raquel. So good evening, everybody. My name is Raquel Serôa Plas, and I'll be talking today about a very technical yet super important topic, which is about leveraging private sector finance for mitigating the climate crisis. And I know it sounds super scary, this entire title, but I'm going to try to make it easy for you. This is actually what I do from my day-to-day job. Of course, I think as Raquel and other people in this room, we are always entrepreneurs, right? So that's my 9-to-5 job. I like to do other things beyond that, but this is really where I dedicated my career to. I have a background in environmental sciences and have been working all over the globe on trying to mitigate climate change. So I recently started working for Terra Global Capital. But before diving into the company and exactly what I do, I just want to make sure that you guys understand what climate change is. So I put just one quick video of 1 minute that will explain to us very briefly what is climate change. So let's try to listen to it. Wait, see if this works. Do you hear the audio?
As a result of the Industrial Revolution that kicked off in the mid-1700s, the Earth's surface is warming up at a never-seen-before rate. A major reason for the rise in temperatures is the increase in the concentration of greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere. These cause our planet to retain heat from the sun. Greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane are released into the atmosphere when fossil fuels are burned. Trees and oceans absorb carbon dioxide, but can't handle the large amounts that are now building up in the Earth's atmosphere. And because our forests are shrinking, even less carbon dioxide is absorbed. The high levels of carbon dioxide are already acidifying oceans, killing off coral reefs. It's also triggering a dangerous rise in sea levels and an increase in extreme weather events. Around the world and across Europe, innovators are now racing against the clock to invent new ways to live in our cities, use land, manufacture products, and run our businesses. New innovations are bringing down greenhouse gas emissions to confront climate change and its threat to our health and our economies, while creating new, sustainable growth and jobs. Join us.
Great. So that's just a little bit to explain what climate change is and how society is trying to cope with it, because we know that we are in a climate crisis, right? So I don't know if you know the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's a kind of a panel which they have researchers from all over the globe releasing a report every year. And every year this report becomes more scary, and they are urging for climate action, and they are urging for fast action. And when it comes to climate change, you can either adapt to whatever is already happening and let's put it that way, the damage, or you could mitigate and avoid emissions and try to work with solutions that you already have in hands. And those solutions can be either nature-based solutions or can be technology-based solutions. I'm going to focus the discussion on nature-based solutions, which is exactly the work that I'm currently doing. And there is no question, we need to take action, and we need to take action now. And that's what Terra Global has been doing, not only now, but for the past 16 years. We are a woman-run for-profit social organization and small business. It's a California-based organization, and we manage a large portfolio of sustainable landscape projects. We have a very diverse and multidisciplinary team, and we have been leading we have been leading projects and greenhouse gases emissions quantifications and projects which can deliver carbon credits. Carbon credits is a sort of a new way of trying to not only ensure that we are mitigating climate change, but we are also rewarding those people and those projects which are helping to mitigate climate change. So it's a very growing market. We have two types of markets. We have the voluntary market, which is literally companies like Terra trying to support landscape projects alongside indigenous communities or large landowners to retain the trees that they have and the nature that they have, so this nature can capture CO2 and avoid CO2 emissions. And these avoided emissions is what we call carbon credits, and we trade those emissions in the market for a price. And the entire idea is that people can avoid deforestation and avoid degradation in order to sell those credits. So it's more commercially appealing to keep the forest alive and sell those credits as opposed to taking those forests down and selling the tree and the wood, for example. Long story short, we are a company which has been trying to set up the scenario of carbon credits for the past 16 years. We started very early in 2006. Our CEO, she was a derivative trader in Wall Street. She saw the business case of the carbon market, but at the time nobody believed it on her, right? We have like Al Gore telling the world that climate change was a thing, but nobody believed it. But now this is a reality. The company is growing, and luckily enough, we can have a portfolio of projects which are actually creating an impact at scale. And we do all of this by channeling private sector investments, as opposed to a lot of different projects that you might have heard. Let's say we have a lot of Norwegian capital coming into the Amazon forest in Brazil, and those are donors funding. So Norway wants to kind of support other economies by donating money because they can no longer protect their own nature. They don't have a nature anymore. So they donate those funds to projects in different developing countries. But what happens when the money is finished? Because those projects, they last between 3 to 5 years. But if you really want to have impact at a scale, you need to be there for the long run, for 15, 16, 17, 30 years. And that's how Terra has thought about attracting private sector finance to support very long-lasting projects. So our projects last between 17 to 30 years. And that's indeed what creates change at a scale. And being a bit more technical, I told you that we do nature-based solutions, and those can be done in 3 different ways. We do forest protection and forest improved management. So let's say you have a large area, a large protected area with a lot of trees. We help managing those forests so that they can retain as much as possible CO2 and increase their carbon stocks. We also do increased tree cover. So we do reforestation projects and agroforestry projects, and we do agriculture management projects, which comes from soil nutrient management, new farming techniques, because we know that also farming has a large impact in climate change. So those are kind of our top 3 areas of work. What else? And as I said before, like, why did we decide to do carbon development as opposed to perhaps just taking Norwegian funding and donating to indigenous communities to keep their forest alive? Because we see that to change behavior, you need to have an economic incentive. And this economic incentive cannot just be donations. It has to be almost like teaching the fisher how to fish as opposed to giving him the fish. You need to help and mentor people to protect their forests, so then they could be rewarded at every verification stage of the project. That happens between year 1, 3, 5, and every other year you have a verification to know if the activities of the project are creating the impact that we expect and generating those carbon credits. So bottom line is, the communities need to feel empowered and need to feel that their activities are actually paying off as opposed to just cutting off the forest. And this is quite interesting because you involve communities, you involve society, you promote alternative livelihoods to those communities which now depend on simply cutting forest and selling timber to large organizations. So it really has ripple effects beyond just the project boundaries. It really creates sort of a multiplying effect because, let's say, we have a project in the Amazon now, which is around 800,000 hectares, and we have 8 different indigenous communities working alongside us to protect their forest. All the remaining indigenous communities around those 8 communities, they are already wondering, like, wow, what are those guys doing which is going so well, and why we are not doing the same? So you create this multiplying effect, which is quite interesting. So that's why we say that carbon develop is indeed the most cost-effective tool to mitigate climate change, because we not only do it from a technical and environmental perspective, we include a social and financial sustainability in those systems. Okay. So I just want you to understand a little bit how those projects work. So this is a really, let's say, dummy graph just for you to understand. Let's take this project in the Amazon as a reference. So here you would see the top one is the project area. And the left side, you would have the time, right? Year 0, year 10, and year 20. Without having a project, a carbon development project, the project area on year 10 would get more degraded, and on year 20 would get even more degraded. If we come over and we implement activities in the ground to reforestate the area and to revegetate the area, on year 10, the project area is no longer that degraded as the left side, but it's getting better as the right side. And year 20, it gets even better. So that's why I'm saying that we need to work in the long term, because I cannot just come on year 0, put money into the ground and leave on year 5, because the change happens across a long period. But that's just for you to understand how is a baseline, meaning without the project, and how are things with the project. And this is one of the biggest typologies of projects we have, which is afforestation, reforestation, and revegetation. And this is how you can actually see things going on. So without the project activities, we would have a baseline scenario, meaning that the quality of the soil would degrade and would decrease, and you would lose carbon content. But with the project activities, in fact, you would improve your carbon stocks across time, and you would see that this cumulative carbon stocks is what you could trade as carbon credits. The same happens when we are talking about REDD+ projects, which are reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Year 10, without the project, you would have less forest, and year 20, you would have even less forest and very degraded soils. With project activities, you would increase and maintain your forest content, and by year 20, you would even have a much more richer forest area with high biodiversity. And that again is expressed on here, that you can see the carbon stocks. For this typology of project, it's even more noticeable, the cumulative carbon credits. So REDD+ projects on which you maintain the forest and conserve and protect the areas can create even more cumulative carbon credits, which is quite interesting because you can trade those credits and have more revenue back to the communities which depend on those forests. I know it's very, very technical, but I just wanted to explain what we do and the stage that we are as a company. So as I explained before, as you can imagine, in order to bring a project area from this to this, you need to invest, right? I'm not talking only about creating a national park, putting a fence and saying, okay, go ahead. try to maintain your area. No, we need to really put activities in the ground. We need to create alternative livelihoods to all those people who depend on the forest. We need to create better infrastructure for them. A lot of those communities not even have electricity. How are they going to ever think about carbon credits if they can barely cook? So there is basically a huge amount of investment that we need in order to change the reality of those areas and create those cumulative carbon credits. We are talking about an average of 4 million US dollars per project, and that could range between 1 million to 20 million, depending on the scale. So that's quite a lot of money. And what we've been noticing, and the main limitation of those types of projects, was really finance them. So in the past, we would depend a lot on grants and funding from governments, right? And from governmental agencies such as the NORAD, GIZ from Germany, and etc. Now, finally, we managed to attract climate finance. So Terra Global just set up a fund, and we have a company backing up this fund, which is called A New Climate, and they have committed to give us $640 million for us to accelerate climate finance and nature-based solutions. So we now have in our wallet $640 million to invest in projects to regenerate areas and conserve forests and battle the climate crisis, and consequently supporting communities on finding alternative livelihoods and being rewarded by that. So it's a very great moment to be part of Terra Global Capital. I myself am responsible for actually finding those projects, going to the Amazon forest and talking with people, talking with governors, talking with FUNAI, and trying to understand what are the needs of those areas. A lot of the deforested areas in Brazil remain under public domain, and the government doesn't know how to deal with, they don't know enough about carbon markets. They have been trying a lot, and they have set NDCs, which are national disclosure commitments, which they intend to reduce our overall national emissions by 2030 in a certain percentage. But the way to get into there is not clear. And it's part of our work to also support governments on understanding the potential of nature-based solutions. So I spend a lot of my time talking with ministers, with officials from IBAMA and the Ministry of Environment to try to showcase what can we do and how can we support them in this transition. The thing that I find it very exciting about this job is not only putting my technical knowledge into work, but also seeing the impact of this, not only for me, not only for Terra Global, not only for the Ministry of Environment, but for you, for your kids, and for the future. And that's very rewarding. So we are at an exciting time. We have the funds, we have the technical capacity. We need to find the right structures and the right areas on which we can implement those projects. And now we are working very much into jurisdictional levels. So instead of trying to work with 1 or 2 or 3 indigenous communities or big landowners, we are working with the state of Mato Grosso, the state of Pará, because they have large areas which are being completely deforested illegally and burned. So we need to take action, and this action needs to be now. So it's very exciting to be part of Terra Global, to be here in Brazil. I spent the past 10 years abroad. I lived in the Netherlands, Belgium, and other places, and I'm back here now to actually put those $640 million to work and to support not only Brazil, but also Latin America on making that transition. So I think I'm going to pause for now. I don't know if I have more slides. I have more things about where we've been working at Terra, but I think this is a good explanation of what I do, and everything bottoms down to, indeed, passion and persistence for people and the planet. That's actually the work that Terra has been doing and what I've been doing from the past 10 years of my career. And I hope you had understand a little bit about carbon, about climate change. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.